Having played through the demo of Forgive Me Father 2, I knew what to expect. What's great is that even if I had a general idea of what the overall game would be like, I was still surprised. At this point in time, it's clear to me that BoomerShooter devs know that they need to change up the formula to avoid coming off as just another for their pile. With some it might be specific mechanics, but the impression that Forgive Me Father 2 gave me is that it decided to stand out with its great art design. I haven't played Forgive Me Father 1, so chances are that the art design is an extension of what was initially seen there. Still, I thought that it was very colorful and expressive artwork. It might seem like an easy way to accomplish this by offering a very bloody experience, but FMF2 offered the sizzle and steak. It was easy to not feel overwhelmed by the game's gore because of how well it balanced that with visual offerings that were much easier on the eyes. It also helps that I'm a bit of a gore hound, so playing a violent FPS helps scratch that itch. Rather than being in the vein of Doom or Wolfenstein, I'd say that FMF2's movement is more like Quake/Unreal Tournaments. It offers very smooth gameplay mechanics that led to a high degree of maneuverability. That was especially useful for combat, and a skill worth being highly familiar with towards the end of FMF2. Rather than just being another meat and potatoes kind of boomer shooter, FMF2 spices things up thanks to friendly fire being possible. Chances are that one of the many other boomer shooters that are out there make use of this, and maybe even to a higher degree, but I was satisfied with that. I liked being able to use this against enemies because it offered a greater level of strategic gameplay. Rather than attempting to just be a highly mobile Gatling gun, I could balance that with trying to get enemies in the right spot so that they'd end up giving me a helping hand. It also helped that being able to shoot through multiple enemies with one shot was not only doable, but very satisfying when performed correctly. I mean, isn't that a possibility most FPS fans dream about? It reminded me of the over-the-top scene when Indiana Jones shoots through multiple Nazis with one bullet in The Last Crusade. It's more appropriate/expected in a boomer shooter such as FMF2, but it's still worth praising. Unlike some boomer shooters, FMF2 offers a variety of weapons that can't be used all at once. What's great is that unlocking new weapons is worthwhile because they're either different or just straight up better. I like that FMF2 knew how to balance the effectiveness of the majority of the weapons and made it so that you'd want to give them a try. That last one is especially true due to me sometimes sticking to a single weapon due to its effectiveness, and sometimes simply because it looks great. The weapon designs in FMF2 really stood out to me not only because of the base of its art design, but also because of how cool some of the otherworldly weapons looked. I know I've already mentioned this, but it's worth saying that while FMF2 isn't innovative, it takes what was done in other FPS/boomer shooters and does a good job. I liked the cosmic/body horror nature of some of the weapons. They reminded me of H.R. Geiger and David Cronenberg, both of whom I'm a big fan of, so that's great. Having said that new weapons were straight up better, that's both true and false when it comes to some of them. I thought that the modern pistol was a great addition because it was useful in just about every area of the game. I don't like it when games make it so that a weapon or mechanic is only meant to be used early on. The point isn't to make it so that a Beretta is on the same level as a Colt Python, but why bother putting in the effort only for something like a pistol to end up obsolete sooner rather than later? It helped that it could easily take out some of the more basic enemies, but its rate of fire made it so that you could more or less spray and pray. At times I was running low on ammo, so I enjoyed being able to fall back on the pistol and not feeling as if I'd backed myself up into a dead end, something which has occurred in other games where some weapons are too overlooked. For the most part, I'd say that the level design in FMF2 is pretty straightforward, but there were specific moments that stood out to me. Generally, I thought that they were intricate and varied with a lot to explore. It helped that they had a lot in common with Doom, as do some other boomer shooters. The idea being that exploration was rewarded with secret areas, additional resources, or just more to look at. I liked that FMF2 had the asylum work as a hub that you could go back to. You could choose to skip it and head straight to the next level, or go there for a breather. Not only that, that's where you unlock new weapons and abilities. You could also use it to replay earlier levels and do one or two more optional things, but I didn't really look into that. Boomer shooters are great for offering a real pedal to the metal kind of experience, but some downtime can make it so that the more hectic moments come off as even more intense due to the contrast between being able to take it easy in the asylum versus endlessly having to fight your way through hordes of cosmic horror entities. One thing that really stood out to me about FMF2's combat were the enclosed arena moments. I thought they were really fun because I pretty much just had to focus on taking out enemies. Every once in a while, mindless firing away in an FPS is what I'm in the mood for, and FMF2 delivered the goods when it came to that. It also helped that one of the levels, the Villa, had one standout example of great level design in the style of arena-based shooters. What stood out to me was how it pretty much offered an endless loop with twists and turns. It also helped that it offered level changes and multiple ways to go about navigating through the area while trying to take out hordes of enemies. It was done in such a way that you could use it to your advantage rather than feeling as if it's just another obstacle to overcome alongside the enemies, as is the case in some games with poor level design. I love boomer shooters and I play more than I should, but it's still worth saying that the key thing with these games is moderation. You could argue that's the case for any and all games, but they're like extreme metal for me. The idea being that even if I love extreme metal, I'm more likely to listen to a short and sweet album that's around 30 minutes long versus a brutal death metal album that's an hour long. Chances are that I'll get to the end, but much like in FMF2, it starts to feel like a slog. Simply put, FMF2 was much longer than I thought it would be. I was around 8 or 9 hours in when I started to think I was close to or at the end, but in reality, I had around 3 or 4 more hours to go. It's not as if the last sections of FMF2 were bad, it's that there was a noticeable difference between them and what was experienced earlier on. I'm pretty sure that I've brought this up before, but it's like the Return of the King with one of its many false endings. It's not as overdone, but I feel that the overall game would have come off as a tighter experience had some of the fat been trimmed off. Something I've recently started to notice is how games will feature levels/basic enemies that are more of a challenge than actual bosses. Some enclosed arena sections were very challenging because of how much they asked of you. It wasn't just moving around in circles while endlessly firing your weapon. There were some bosses that offered that kind of an experience, and that left me feeling underwhelmed. That was especially true with the final boss. I was let down because I expected to fight Kudaloo, a massive and intimidating figure, but I ended up having to face a boss similar to previous ones. The lead up to this fight ended up feeling like a massive tease, and I didn't like that. The truth is that I'd prefer enemies that are less of a challenge if it means getting bosses that actually require effort to go through. While I don't think that FMF2 brings something new to the FPS/boomer shooter genre, it still delivers a well-executed experience. I don't see it becoming a beloved classic like the games that would end up inspiring countless boomer shooters such as this one, but it's still worth playing. I'd say that this game is meant for boomer shooter fans that know what to expect and are fine with that. If you're hoping for an experience that offers new twists and turns, chances are that you won't enjoy Forgive Me Father 2 as you may be hoping to. Does it matter to you if a game is from a genre that's arguably overdone? Do you think a game has to be unique in order to be thought of as good? What would your dream FPS/boomer shooter look like? If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much for watching.